pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everybody, for coming today. It is Tuesday, January 12th, 2021. Has everybody had a chance to look at the agenda today? Are there any questions? If hearing none, is there any motions to approve? So moved. Jim has made a motion to approve. I will second. Mike has seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Moving on, approve the minutes of January 4th and the meeting and the claims. Is there any additions or corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, do we have any motions?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes and claims.
Mike has made a motion to approve. Mark has seconded. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Sounds like that has been approved too. County Attorney General discussion. Mark, are you there?
Yes, I am.
I will let you have the floor.
Thank you. The 30 days have expired on the Comiskey property. He may have made some improvements from last week, but I guess I would just like the board's authority that if someone from the Sheriff's Department or Mark Ross goes out there and looks at it and nothing's changed, that we issue him a citation for violation of the zoning ordinance.
Hey Mark, this is Mark Ross. So I was out there yesterday and it was down to 3 vehicles left and he had 1 vehicle that was on the trailer ready to be hauled out. So if he's not in compliance, he's getting real close to being in compliance.
Okay, I'd say we probably should wait at least another week, put it on next week's agenda again, and then we'll see what's happening.
Okay, I'll go out there and check on it again just before next week's meeting then, alright?
Okay, then I'm gonna be on for the meeting. Of course, if I get a phone call, I might take that. Does anybody have any questions for me about anything else that's on the agenda?
Apparently not.
Okay, and then I'm back on at 10 o'clock or so for my budget hearing, correct?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, it should be that. We'll make that work.
okay.
Thank you, Mark.
Yep, I'm just gonna stay on and listen.
All righty. Moving on, Sheriff's Department update.
Good morning. I don't have a whole lot. We're having problems with the landowner and his dogs up by Mitchell, so I think that's maybe your district, Mark. You might get some complaints. We've given him 3 citations. 2 of them are pending in court, and he doesn't seem to want to keep his dogs tied up. So we'll see what the judge does with him, but we may have to impound those dogs. And then if he doesn't come and get them by our county ordinance, we can adopt them out. But it also requires that the board sets an adoption fee for those dogs. You don't need to do that today. I'm just giving you a heads up that if we can't get this resolved, and I'll work with the county attorney's office, then we'll probably look to seize those dogs to solve the problem, because he doesn't seem to want to keep them on his property. So that's kind of in the works, so heads up on that. Secondly, when I was here the other day, I should have briefed you on this and I forgot all about it, but back February of 2018, when I say we, myself, the office, and then Devin Sweesoff from the school in St. Ansgar started to develop an app that our kids can use in our schools to prevent school violence. They can report it anonymously through their smartphone. We actually work towards getting a patent for that, and we got word on the 8th of January that we have been approved for a patent for that app. So what does that mean for us now? The attorney that's working with us out in Virginia is doing it pro bono. You'll see some claims if you look back over the last 2 years, and there'll be 1 or 2 coming up from Merchant and Gould. That's an attorney's office in Alexandria, Virginia. There's filing fees for some of that stuff, and the sheriff's office has been paying those filing fees. We have probably spent since February of 2018, somewhere around $4,000 in filing fees, $4,000 to $5,000 to get the app, and we're there now. So we need to market it now, get it out to other districts across the state of Iowa, and then what it looks like from there, if it goes, to college campuses and to workplace violence. Will there be a user fee? Maybe. Those things haven't been determined yet. The big hurdle was to get the patent to protect our technology, and we got that. So that's pretty good work on the kids' part in St. Ansgar. Osage was with us for 1 year that worked on that. So those kids that worked on that idea now are listed as inventors in the patent office in Washington. So it's a pretty big deal. So we'll see how that plays out in the future. I don't think I have anything else unless the board's got something for me or those in attendance. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
How many was in this week, last week?
5. Yeah.
I think that was the number the week before,
Yep.
probably too, so.
Yeah, we got an inmate that essentially went into liver failure, so we were able to get him out of our custody so the county didn't have to pay those medical bills, but he's getting the treatment he needs now to get healthy, so county attorney's office worked with me on that, so I appreciate that very much. Saved the county a lot of money in that instance. So that's all I have. Thank you.
No other questions for the sheriff? Thank you. Thank you, Greg. Moving on, county engineer.
Morning. Sorry I wasn't here last week. I had Worth County Board meeting at the same time you guys had yours, so congratulations to all you guys for your elections. What we've got going on in secondary roads right now, since we've got an open winter, everybody's out cutting brush, and we've got 3 different crews out burning and cutting, so that's what's kind of been the focus these last couple weeks anyway, with the open winter we've got. So we'll see what this nasty weather, if there's any kind of sloppy weather coming in this week, is going to do for us. So.
Sounds like something for Friday.
Yeah, so we'll just see how we'll take that as it comes. What you got in front of you today was, we had our bid letting for the Wapsie Bridge up north, up by Bailey. The engineer's estimate on that was $833,000. It came in at $736,000, I believe, and change. 736,617.42. So it was under the engineer's estimate. We expected it to be a little higher than what we budgeted for, just because of the complicated abutments, the taller concrete abutments had a little bit more expense to it. But all in all, it came in under the engineer's estimate, and it'll fit within our HBP, our bridge funding constraints, so we'll be okay there. So what you have in front of you is a resolution first to approve, you can approve the project, approve the bid to Hinkle Construction out of Mason City for that amount. You guys are able to accept the contract there. And then there's a resolution also with the system we use with the DOT and DOT lettings and the way we track project now. It's called Doc Express. Jim's very familiar with it. And what used to be done in the past is we'd have to get the chair of the board to, and Steve was involved in that too. You have to do an electronic signature and email stuff back and forth between these people that are controlling the program. And now the Code of Iowa changed such that now the board can allow the engineer to sign the contract and bonds and everything else that goes with the project, as long as you guys approve that to happen. So that's what the resolution is. So we'll need an approval of the acceptance of the contract, and then you guys can do the resolution for the project itself. So that's what you have in front of you there, if you guys want to act on that, if you would.
Okay,
Or have any questions on it first, I guess.
so we need to approve the resolution of bridge replacement project DROS-WSAB swap -CO66 parenthesis 76 -SE-66. Is that how you want that?
Yeah, just approval of the project, and then the resolution will be to the approval of replacement of bridge project and the county engineer's authorization to sign contract documents and Doc Express.
Okay. So we have to do two. And do we have a motion for the bridge project first, right?
Yeah, I think you can accept that first.
Or is it all the one resolution, it's all titled the same?
I think you can maybe you can just get by with the one resolution and just
That
accept
would be-
everything.
that
That'd be
would be
easier. I mean, if you
that
guys
would
are all on board with it, I think you can
That
just do
would
it
be
in one
more
step.
helpful.
I'll move to approve the bridge replacement project and county engineer authorized to sign contract documents and Doc Express.
Jim has made a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Todd has. On a vote like this, we probably should do a roll call, I would think.
Yeah.
So, Todd,
Yay.
Mark,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Smollett, yes.
Right.
So,
Do you have that resolution in front of you, Steve, or do I need to get that to you?
I have a resolution here, does not have a number on it.
No, I didn't put a number. I didn't know what number you guys were using yet, so you guys can write that in if you want, or the auditor should have that.
We have, actually, we have two resolutions. We have approval of bridge replacement project, and then we have a resolution of construction evaluation resolution. Is that a different one?
Construction eval, I don't know what that one is.
So maybe that is later on, and you have something else? Oh, okay,
Construction evaluation for the matrix.
okay. So we just have this one resolution. Okay. So Rachel will have to sign this too,
That's fine.
and you can
Good
get
to go.
this.
Okay, good. And then we can discuss this at the budget hearing and whatever else we have for me, but Foothill plans are in for the DOT right now. And we brought this up before, but Hickory and Kirkwood are kind of in limbo right now based on funding, so we can discuss more project stuff later on if you guys wanna do that too, but just where we're at now with projects in the office. Anything else for me?
Went through the claims yesterday, I saw the new truck, the dollar amount for that, just made me think, that kind of got delivered with a few bugs, did all that?
Yeah, we're still working on some of the bugs, but they're giving us, right now, Mac is giving us $1,000 credit towards their software, if we wanna use it for plugging it in, so we can do some of this decoding on our own. I'm still kind of working with Tri-Steel, just because of, they were probably the ones that caused the lateness of the truck. And so they offered us a $750 discount, but I thought, I emailed them back and said, out of $100 and some thousand we're spending with, you're gonna give us $750 back, I think you can do better than that, so we'll see what they come back with.
Yeah, just wondered.
Yep.
I got a phone call from the county engineer that St. Ansgar's 4 blocks in the city limits are out of the project. Is that true at this time?
That's based on, the whole ADA compliance thing.
That was due to lack of engineering that was pulled?
That was due to keeping compliance with ADA. If you wanna do that, we need more engineering.
The ADA was not engineered, is that correct?
Correct, it was not included in
And
the
you
project.
couldn't get it done in time
We don't have the, yeah,
to
we don't.
include it in the project?
Well, and you guys wanna pay for the ADA and all the other stuff that goes with it, that was the thing, it's city sidewalks in the right of way. It was that which needs to be designed and put in there. Now you're talking more detailed surveys, and now you gotta do.
I understand how
Yep.
the ADA works,
Yep,
but there was no talk of who should pay for the ADA crossings. It was just, we'll take it out of the project. Just statement I wanted to make, so.
everything with on the hard service road with the, well, we don't have an agreement with the city for farm markets through town because your population over 500, so typically it wouldn't be the county's responsibility to pave into town to begin with. Second of all, if we did have agreement with, like we do with smaller towns with populations less than 500, the typical 2080 agreement is the county takes care of the 22-foot wide or 24-foot wide roadway, whatever the case is, and the cities take care of anything off that surface for the right-of-way line. So that's usually how things are divvied up with populations less than 500. And we never did get anything solved with paving into town and who's paying for it, so.
And we never discussed the city's involvement.
Right, well, we just never got that far. It was
So
stuck
we
in,
pulled it out, correct?
well, because of the ADA and the timeline. if we
I
wanted to get it
understand.
right, Yep,
It got
that's
pulled
gonna
out.
pull
Thank
that,
you.
yep. So we'll be paving up to 8th Street, even though part of that roadway is city right away from about the cemetery north. Half of that highway is in city limits. We're paving for that. We get up to 8th Street, we'll taper on an asphalt wedge for whatever might be even block, and then that'll be the end of the project. Not how we wanted to do it, but how we ended up doing it. Unless you guys have any other comments on that project, you guys wanna discuss more or not, but trying to do the ADA stuff just doesn't fit in the timeline. And we didn't realize that because of the sidewalks and doing a mill and fill that we needed to do ADA, but even if you put a chip seal on that road, you need to do ADA, so it's not anything fun.
But earlier discovery would have told you that.
It may have, but we don't pave into town, so we don't get too involved in that city street.
Okay, I got it.
Okay. Anyways, moving on. RSVP budget request for 21-22. And refresh my memory as to RSVP.
What that is.
Yes,
Rachel, are you on the line?
because I think there'd be some other supervisors here wondering on that too.
Yeah, is there no one there right now for them?
I don't believe so.
Rachel, I asked you about that yesterday, and I have forgotten what it was myself, so it's the one I asked you about yesterday.
Is it with NIAC, Rachel?
Yeah, it's
Molly,
RSVP in
I
North
think
Central
Molly's
Iowa
supposed to be
with
here.
NIAC, with Molly.
Yep,
Okay.
We gave him 5,000 last year, you said.
yep.
So,
And I haven't received anything from them to say what they were requesting.
so we don't even have an amount that they're requesting, or should we just approve what they got last year? 5,000? Low?
Weren't they supposed to be coming at a certain time today? I
Yeah.
thought,
Yeah, they were.
I thought a representative, so you're probably ahead of schedule on that,
Okay. And apparently,
but that is through NIAC, it's a reading program for senior citizens. And it's something the county has done for maybe a couple fiscal years.
okay. I don't see
I think
anybody,
they're down for 9 AM.
that might have something to do with it then. Healthy Harvest, I don't believe there's anybody here either.
They're down for 9:15.
Okay, soil and water, I don't believe I see anybody here for that. And I know DA Davidson was set for,
9:30.
yeah, so we're ahead on that. We'll just have to slide down to number 10, approve the liquor license for Osage Motel and Lounge. And I don't believe there's anything in here giving any, basically all we have to do is approved. So, if we would have a motion and a second for a liquor license for the Osage Motel and Lounge.
I'll move to make that motion.
Todd has made a motion.
Second that.
Mike has seconded that. And is there any further discussion on this? If not, I think this should, in my head, this should be a roll call too, but no, all ayes, all right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So that has been approved. Discuss and approve safety coordinator's pay.
So last week, we had decided it was at 55 cents for hourly employees. However, Melissa, I believe last year, this current year, she makes $1.64.
So you would like to make, you would like to say a motion for,
Sure, I'll make a motion that we increase the safety coordinator's pay, or current pay hourly wage, with a 2.5% increase to that hourly wage.
okay, Jim has made a motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Todd has seconded. Is there any other discussion on this? Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? This has been approved. Consideration of deputy position in the auditor's office. Rachel, I'm sure you're the one that wants to bring that up.
Yes. I had given you guys a copy of the two positions now, the payroll and the accounts payable.
Yes.
I would like to not hire another person to replace the position I had. I would like to take that position and divide it between the three of us up there now. You can also see what the third page of that packet is. When I was hired, that's what the job description was. A few things that aren't listed on there that we do, or like that position did, was the budget process. Anything to do with tips, all the reporting and whatnot. I know on all of them it says to assist with the election, but the deputy did completely set up the election. They have to go through all the vendors, get everything for the election. They do the taxes, we do the drains when there's different assessments. So what I am proposing, I would like to make Renee my first deputy and Lindsay my second deputy, and start the first deputy at 65% of my pay and the second deputy at 60%. And I talked to other elected officials to come up with that percentage as well, of where to start them. Do you have any questions for me?
Supervisors, do you have any questions or comments? We have a chair open in here, if you'd like to come in.
So how much of a raise is that per person?
Well, I don't have currently what they make, or I don't have what their yearly salary is. 65% of my pay would be $40,529.15, and 60% would be $37,411.52.
I'm sure that's cheaper than hiring another person, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
That's all right,
And then you also wouldn't have the extra insurance like a hyper
Insurance,
as well.
pretty quiet. Any other thoughts from supervisors?
I'm assuming Lindsay and Renee know all about this, correct?
Yes, actually, when I decided to run last year, I started training them on almost all of it, so they've actually been doing this for at least 6 months now, helping out with everything.
And it won't be an overwhelming workload for all three of you, will it?
No, no,
Only concern would be sometime down the future when, if you sometime realize that, oh, now we do need another person in the office, I guess that would be, just wanna make sure that this is
Right.
what is
yeah, I
going to
don't
work.
think that's gonna be a problem. That was kind of my intent was back when I went to run, would it be possible? That's why we were trying to work out of the last few months just to make sure we'd have enough time. And between the three of us, we've been able to get everything done in a timely manner.
And then what about the part-time person that helps you out occasionally, how would that come into play with this?
Currently, we do not have a part-time person. The only time I would see us needing someone would be election time for a general election. And typically that would be to help get all of the absentee ballots out. And this last year with COVID, we were able to get a couple machines that helped fold everything. So we actually probably would not even need anyone to help with that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments from the supervisors?
No, it's a good deal. When I look at the numbers, it looks like it's a significant savings on your part, so.
And Lindsay's right here, she can sit there and attest that they can get this done.
And I see you have it listed as a consideration. Are you looking at an approval today, or are you?
I would like to, just with the scenario, I was exposed to someone with COVID, so I'm not able to be in the office. If we have a deputy, they are able to sign off on stuff without me being there. So it can keep business rolling.
I guess I think what Todd was asking, do you want action on it today?
Yes, please.
And just for legality reasons, we can do that.
It's been
Okay.
done in many, many years past.
Okay.
Just another way of putting it on the agenda.
Okay. Well, I'll move to make a motion that we deputize, or however that you want it to be worded, Renee and Lindsay in the auditor's office.
I will second that.
And, okay, and that would be at 65% for Renee and 60% for Lindsay, correct? That's how you want it
Yeah.
worded?
Correct. Yep.
Okay, we had a motion and we had a second. Is there any further discussion on this?
Looks like it's about a 10,000 increase between the two of them, so it's well below another person.
So, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Nay. Hearing none, this resolution has been passed, so. I think this should work out fine. Approved. It is just about 9 o'clock. So somebody was supposed to be here at 9 o'clock, so maybe we should probably let them RSVP RSVP budget request, that was for 9 o'clock, are you?
Yes.
Yes, there we are.
You want us to come over?
Yes, slide, come on up,
Sure.
and there's another chair, we could slide up just a little
Alrighty.
closer here, and, thank you for coming.
Yes, thank you for having us. Previously, you may have seen Terry Schumacher. I just wanted to come and introduce myself. I'm the new Dean of Continuing Education at NIAC, Patty Hanson, and we work with RSVP. We wonder how we're all connected, and so it's all about, growing the communities that we serve, so.
And I'm Molly Enrig, I'm the director of RSVP, and I just passed out packets for you guys if you would just, your name's on the bottom, right, just take one and pass. Okay, thank you. So, I know some of you are new to your positions, and I'll just start with a brief overview. RSVP is a volunteer program for people 55 and older. And we're a federally funded program. We receive federal, state, county, and United Way funding. And a couple of years ago, we wrote an expansion grant to expand into Mitchell and Franklin County. So things are going really well. We have a great partnership with Lincoln Elementary School. The majority of our volunteers serve in schools and help students improve their reading as reading buddies, and then we also have a pen pal program, which helps with literacy-based learning as well. We have a great group of volunteers in Osage and all of Mitchell County. And when COVID hit last year, like everything, we pulled our volunteers out of the schools, and quickly the focus turned to keeping them safe and then keeping them engaged, since that population is, more isolated than the rest of us, or can be. So we found ways to connect with them, providing some volunteer opportunities, or learning opportunities, online. We just had a fraud fighter presentation for volunteers, because again, that age group can easily fall victim to fraud. But we also turned to them to make homemade masks and gowns, hospital-style gowns. And Mitchell County volunteers stepped up to the plate for that, and they were used in the local communities. We did card campaigns, so we sent cards to all of the area hospitals, including here in Osage, and long-term care center cards for those folks working, because that continues to be such a difficult job for them. And then this year we did connecting them with their teachers, so card campaign to the teachers where they usually go volunteer in their classrooms, just to try to keep their hopes up. And we do have a pen pal program running this year, so volunteers and students exchange this year 5 letters for the school year, and then hopefully they will meet at a pen pal party in May. I'm like, we'll host this thing outside if we need to, because last year the pen pal party had to come to Nichols and the pairs never met, and they were so disappointed. And the great thing about the pen pal program, same with Reading Buddies, is the teachers love it, the volunteers love it, the students love it. Pen pal teachers have told us they have to hide their packet of letters so the students don't see them, because they're like, it's pen pal day! And they're like, no, we have to work on math today. So it's just a great program, mostly because of the volunteers that step forward to serve in their community and help the youth. And so this sheet gives you a little bit of information, what I covered that we've done during COVID. And then just wanted to provide you with our letter of request and some new information about the program in general.
And one area that we've been able to expand on in Sarasota County that I think should be heard by all the counties, because it's something that we can do in every county that would like us to, but we've expanded volunteering in helping with the COVID pandemic. They helped actually man a COVID helpline, and then they also now come back for help with document retention and now scheduling for the vaccine. So public health and emergency management have now tapped into using the volunteers in Saragordo County. And so that is something that we could talk to your emergency management person or your public health person. But if that is something that we could do a campaign to recruit volunteers that would like to do something like that. And I think it's been very successful in Saragordo County, so we wanted to make sure all the counties are aware of that type of thing. Because it goes beyond the pen pal and beyond some of the things that we've done with other people. So it's something to consider.
Yeah, if that's a need, turning to a pool of volunteers already connected with us makes it really easy for us to find people to help with community needs. So let me know if there's a need and you're interested in partnering on that. But sometimes people think RSVP is, oh, that's the reading program, and that's a big piece of what we do. But our volunteers can do a lot of things based on the RSVP guidelines. And so we've recently just started partnering with Hotline Harvest Food Bank and Habitat for Humanity. And, you know, they are located in Mason City, but they serve a lot more communities than just Mason City. So we'd like to expand what we're doing our entire service area, and as well as be specific about what the community needs are. So if you think of needs in Mitchell County, reach out to me. We may be able to help with that.
Okay.
Any questions for us?
Are you requesting the same as last year?
Requesting the same amount as last year, yep.
Okay.
I don't have a question, but I just, I'm involved with the school board, and it is, you'd not believe that I've been to that Lincoln with the volunteer reading and people, and it's amazing. I mean, it's amazing in Mitchell County what the volunteers do for those kids down there. So
Thank you for sharing. That's so true. The connection the students and volunteers make really is amazing, like you said. It's fun to see.
And with the teachers, with the COVID and stuff going on prior to this, it's gives our teachers a little more focused time on different areas also. So I believe it's a good program. That's just my thoughts.
I'm involved in long-term care too, and I've seen your card.
Oh, good. Oh, wonderful. Yeah. Great. You might see us on Martin Luther King Jr. Day. We're hosting a donation drive for crisis intervention service. And so we have a drop-off site at one of the Lutheran churches in town. So again, those services impact every county in our service area. So you might see us again.
Okay, thank you. Well, like
Thank you.
Stan always says, when we get done mixing everything together, we'll see what pours out. And
Sounds good.
I think you'll get what you were asking.
Good. All right. Thank you.
Thank you for
Appreciate your
coming.
time.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
So Supervisor Smalley,
Yes,
we were given an 8:45 time for the library.
didn't know that. It doesn't say a time,
Yeah,
but we knew somebody had times, but go ahead if you want
Okay,
to jump right
perfect.
in quick.
Perfect.
and-
Thank you.
Because, yeah,
Yeah, there's no timeline on the agenda, so I actually did a copy of the formula that we use for the Mitchell County Library Association, how we divide the funds that we are given. And then I also did some copies of my own library stuff, because I don't know if all of you received it in November when we were here.
I made sure that everybody got to look at
Okay,
what you give
you're welcome.
us.
And I did a copy for you also, for the auditor's office. So I am Barb Claperick, and I am the treasurer for the Mitchell County Library Association right now, and represent all the libraries in the county, Riceville, St. Ansgar, Stacyville, and Osage, and I am from the Stacyville Public Library. And our libraries serve a large population in the county, and if you've read some of the reports that we've given you, it'll just give you a good background on what we do. And I would actually like Sid Heimer, who's been a librarian for a long time. She has some information.
You don't want to know how long.
For a long time. And she has some information, kind of some of the history. We thought that would be a good thing to update your group on, since you have a fairly new board of supervisors here.
I'm Sid Heimer from the Old Sage Library.
Yep.
I started actually at Stacyville and worked there for a long time. And before I came to Osage. So I've been involved with the Mitchell County Libraries for a long time. We started out, right now we come as a group, the Mitchell County Library Association. We ask for a lump sum for the 4 libraries. And then it's divided according to the formula that Barb just passed out. And this formula is adjusted every year. It's based on spending, hours open, and an equal amount. And plus there's a column for technology too that's equal among all the libraries. The libraries, we negotiate with our city councils independently, but then we request from the supervisors as a group. We also talk to the incorporated towns that do not have libraries, and we receive a small amount from them also. So we do receive. Libraries are almost totally tax supported, either through cities, county, and a little bit from the state, which is based on what programs we participate with in the state. We also apply for grants. We receive, any kind of fees that we have or donations, which is if you look at some of our budgets, you can see that's not a huge amount in our budgets. The association's been together, I think we negotiated this contract probably in the 80s. It has worked well. It's not based on any circulations or anything, just what we are able to spend, so that it's an equitable amount between the population, so that the smaller libraries are not at a disadvantage according to the large one. So we try to do that. Anything I forgot?
So on the formula sheet, on the bottom, we're asking for a 4% increase, which is $5,815.68. And that would give us a proposed total for 21-22 fiscal year of $151,207.68. And I have to say, as the smallest library in population, but not in size, because I actually have some of the bigger programs, not bigger than Osage, but bigger programs than the other cities in the county. I rely tremendously on the tax money, because like in October, before I got the money for property tax money in October, I was down to $800 in my checking. And we had bills laying there and payroll at the end of October. So I really rely on the funds that I receive from the county.
Well,
And then I think each individual library gave you a narrative on what's happened at each library over the last year. You can see, what we've been doing with our funding. I don't know if you have any questions about any of that.
I would have, I was all for everything and resolving it the last time you were here, but the other 2 supervisors wanted the future to get to visit with you, so I see nothing but positive here for what you're doing, and I'm all for
It's
it.
been a challenging year, I have to say. We've tried to continue our children programming and to the best of our abilities, all of us.
Yep, that's our future.
Yeah. And my programming, because I'm an overachiever, my kids' programming went wild because I planned too much stuff. But it was great. I mean, I had 118 children participate this year again, so.
I do have a couple questions. As far as do you have a threshold as far as when you open the doors up and try to get things rolling like we had before? I mean, is there, can you talk about that, or?
My library has been open the entire time for curbside, and starting mid-May, we are open for appointments. And and it can be call from outside the door and say, do you have time right now? You know, it's like call ahead. And, you know, I don't have the population walking in, and actually my circulation has not dropped very much. Whereas I know that, like the other libraries, the circ has dropped a little bit this year.
Those decisions are mostly made up by the library boards.
Okay.
And what our policies are, so, we're open by appointment right now. We've never been closed, we've always done service through the drive-up window, we've been really lucky to be able to do that. So, it has hurt our circulations, you know, because a lot of the items are browsing sections, you know, where, you know, children's picture books and DVDs, people may call and say they want a certain title, but when they come in, you know, they're browsing and they'll check out 4 or 5 instead of just the one they're interested in. So those browsing sections have suffered without having people in, but we're gonna, you know, it depends on infection rates and that kind of stuff, so positivity. So our board's looking at it that way. So,
Yes, I'm on the library board in Osage. I'd like to let you know that that is something we look at every one of our meetings. We look at the percentages in the county. We look at our health and safety of our employees. But we don't have, as far as I am concerned, we don't have a specific open time. We will increase and then we'll go back if we need to, but it is something that we look at every board meeting.
And the Riceville board and staff took a slightly different angle. We were closed to the public. Our doors were locked for those 3 weeks that were mandated by the governor. But we reopened to the public on May 1st. We've been open ever since. We actually conducted an in-person summer reading program. Our numbers were down because of COVID, quite simply. We actually did a survey and of the community, of families with children, and they absolutely did not want another virtual program. I mean, that's just how the people in Riceville felt. So things have been pretty much as possible back to normal since May 1st for us. Of course, we've got protocols in place that we didn't have before. We spent a lot more money on, you know, PPE and this, that, and the other, but we're good. We're good. Definitely noticed definitely a slight drop in traffic. There's a lot of people that just don't come, and we still do curbside. There's people that do not want to come into the library, but do want to check out books. And we're doing an in-person story hour. We still do our twice a week Jerry Fit. It's an exercise program that we initiated a couple of years ago. And so this is the at-risk older population, but they still come in twice a week to exercise.
And then the 4%, how does that tie into as far as paying the staff? I mean, is there a percentage that you target to try to give raises to people that are working, or how does that work?
We attempt to, whatever we can do in our budget. I have to admit that this is the very first year I've made $20,000 at the library. It's going to be really tough to replace the crew that are at all the libraries in the next few years, because to find people that have the experience and education and background to do what we do for the amount that we do it for is going to be tough.
We budgeted a 3% wage increase all the way across the board, including students and all staff, so that's what we have budgeted this year and next year.
Does Howard County contribute to the library?
They do. So we are a .6 library in Mitchell County.
Oh, okay.
And we're at .4 in Howard. Oh, and something else that I forgot to say. Our rural numbers for both counties are very high. And that's what the county is supporting, is our rural patrons, providing service for our rural patrons. So they're just high. I mean, we have people in town that read too, but so the numbers are there to justify the budget.
guys have been involved for quite a while. How do you guys feel? The pandemic did us absolutely no good. But how do you guys feel on the future of our libraries with the phones, the computers? You know, we're gonna have to continually updating stuff in there, I'm assuming, correct? Because even my kids, you know, the encyclopedias are gone. You know, everything is done on their phones and their computers. So where I'm going with this, do you see in the future people taking over for you guys in the libraries?
In our library, I have a lot of people that come in and are like, you know, you can go online and download that. You're like, no, I want the book.
Okay.
And families that want the books. And so that's a trend that I like to see because, you know, 10, 15 years ago, it was kind of like, oh, we're going to have virtual libraries and there won't be any books and you'll walk into an empty building, you know. And that is not what is happening in our case. So, and it's refreshing to me that people still want to read a book. So,
The physical.
yeah.
In our case, I guess I was really surprised at how many people do not or cannot afford internet or their own computers. We have a lot of, not always elderly either, that come in and when they can and use our computers. And we're taking appointments for that too now, so that they can come in and access what they need to do on the computers, on the internet. Yeah, it's, the need is out there because a lot of, and especially, I'm afraid it's gonna get worse with the unemployment and everything, that people are gonna have to let their internet connections go if they, you know, afterwards if they have to. So, I don't see it tapering off a lot. I don't, and that's part of what our technology amount in our contract is for, is to get those programs to help the people or to replace equipment. So we do, and I know Osage has, you know, an ongoing plan with our technology as far as computer replacement and that. We're always trying to upgrade.
And the library is so much more. I mean, it's a book, it's a program, it's a computer. We do outreach services, daycares, and yes, newspapers. We do outreach programs to daycares and nursing homes. So we're not just a physical building anymore. I mean, we're an institution that's out in the public.
We've done a lot of outreach. My children's librarian is going to the daycare and the preschools to do programming since they can't come to us. So she's going there and taking everything. We do outreach to the assisted livings, which we've had to cut back on the actual contact with them, but we still take crates of books and leave them there, and then we take the old books back. And I've had people from the assisted living call and say, "You're coming today, right?" Because the residents are really asking for the new books. So, you know, we've continued to outreach as much as we can, and we'll always do that.
Yes, they've been more isolated than ever and looking for anything to distract.
For, you know, to fill the time. So,
Well, is there any other questions? Oh, thank you for coming in. And
Thank you.
did you want to add any more?
RSVP, just coincidentally, when our school shut down, last spring, we had a lot of our Reading Buddy volunteers come to the library. Those that could get their kids to come, not everybody could, but, so the Reading Buddy program kind of went from the school to the library last year. And Riceville also has a great deal of volunteers, and it's pretty exciting to see how the teachers use them with the students.
Thank you for coming, and again, I'm sure you will get
Thanks for
what
listening.
you're...
Thanks for your questions.
Thank you very much.
Throw everything in the barrel and see what comes out. Thank you. I see our DA Davison fellow is here, and he had a specific time. What time was it? What time were you fellas up? 9:30?
9:30.
Can we shove one other before you?
Yeah.
I think you're the Healthy Harvest gal, right?
I am the soil and water conservation officer.
Okay, so,
I'm on remote.
oh, okay. Healthy Harvest, we'll give you're on next then.
All right. I apologize that I'm not in person. I've been doing these virtually because I live in a different county, so I just want to keep everyone safe.
Correct,
So
thank
thank
you.
you for having me this morning. For those of you who don't know, my name is Marie Boyd. I'm the Executive Director of Healthy Harvest of North Iowa. We are a small nonprofit here in North Iowa that works to connect and educate in support of the local food system. And we serve 9 counties, so Mitchell is one of them, and one of our favorites actually, because we have a lot of great activities going on in Mitchell County. Some highlights from this past year that happened were that obviously COVID-19 hit different industries differently across the board, right? But local food actually had a pretty fantastic year thanks to the growing support of our farmers, and our local food farmers have been increasing their capacity over recent years so that when supply chain issues hit, folks were looking to their local farmers for different food sources, and thankfully they were able to come through. So our farmers have been reporting increased sales in 2020, and we hope to continue that momentum going into 2021. Another COVID-related impact was that there was state funds available through the CARES Act funding for schools to locally source. And we were able to partner with different school districts in the area, including Osage, and we're able to pull down $3,100 in specific sourcing for local food into the school district. So those are dollars that wouldn't have existed otherwise, and it was a quick turnaround, but thankfully we were able to partner with Brenda and get that rolling to Osage. We also work quite a bit with Steve Strassheim, if anyone knows him, over in Mitchell. He's with Twisted River Farms, so a great greens grower locally in the area. He's done some work with us, so we've been able to throw him some additional work to support his farming abilities, but also worked with him on a specialty crop block grant, which is putting pieces together for a marketing campaign that'll launch this coming spring around local food. So it's exciting to coordinate with him on that, but also the impact that it has will be great. I mean, on Friday we're heading over to Taste and being able to capture some photo and video of that business that'll be directly as a part of that awareness campaign. So we're excited to see that launch here this spring. So keep an eye out for that. We also work with farmers markets, so of course navigating the different regulations or proclamations from the governor as they impacted farmers markets. Osage, Royceville, and St. Ansgar all have markets, so supporting them any way that we can in those ways and additional programming. And we also put out a local food guide every year, which is typically a hard copy, but this year we really focused more on our online directory. So folks can get on our website, search for local products, and find local farms, restaurants, farmers markets near them that sell those products. So that was really exciting, and to kind of draw people into that directory, we also did a fall local food challenge, which highlighted over 10 Mitchell County businesses, directly encouraging customers to shop at those businesses, and when they did, then they were entered into a drawing for additional gift cards to those businesses. So it was a great promotion in that way. Across the board, in a general programming that we do that impacts the county as well, we have been working on a recipe database. Typically, we've been doing in-person recipe demonstrations and cooking classes, but again, that looks different. So we have over 110 recipes now on our website, which is a really awesome. I know we joke that recipes sometimes in blogs, if you're a chef, or at least an online chef, just scroll through a million thoughts, feelings, and emotions before you get to the recipe. Well, ours is very straightforward and simple to access, and the ingredients are clickable links into that searchable directory. So if you're making something that calls for greens, you can click on that and get driven right to Steve's business to be able to purchase those greens locally. So another great opportunity there. I mentioned our marketing campaign, but in general, we also have a connection program to support our local farmers because obviously with increasing demand over recent years, especially this past year, our farmers need support, or new and beginning farmers who are just considering what it might look like to be a local food farmer, making sure that they have the support that they need in the network to be able to ask questions to their fellow farmers and businesses to be able to grow that network even stronger. So last but not least, we typically do farm to fork dinners. If any of you have attended the one in Mitchell County, we've had that for, I believe, 3 years. This would have been our fourth. Had to cancel it this year, but hoping to bring that back in 2021 in some way. And related to that, we partnered with a culinary class that was hoping to come to Osage to learn from some local chefs. I mean, again, Chef Waltz over at Pace, but also Bradley over at the Cedar Valley Seminary, really encouraging these young high school culinary students to learn from their peers in the culinary space and being excited about the opportunities that are here in North Iowa for culinary, and hopefully creating jobs and inspiring these youth to get involved, whether it's culinary or farming or beyond, right? So lots of great activities. We are always responsive to community need and try to adapt and grow as opportunities present themselves, but it wouldn't be possible without the support of our communities, and especially you all as supervisors. We've been very thankful and appreciative of the support that you've given in the past and hope to continue to receive in the future. And so our access remains the same at 30 cents per capita going into this year. But of course, understand that it's a tough year, so we appreciate any and all support you're willing to give. And do you have any questions for me?
It's looking pretty quiet here.
I'm not sure I got the request, I'm sorry, what was it?
It's 30 cents per capita.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Any questions yet? It's pretty quiet here. Well, thank you for your presentation, and I guess we'll mix everything together and see what we get for you in the end.
Sounds great. Thank you so much for your time.
You bet. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're the soil and water.
I sure am.
I let you in quick because you've been sitting here all morning long waiting. So,
Not quite, but.
So
my name is Ellen Frederick, so I work for the Mitchell County Soil and Water Conservation District. So I'm based out of the USDA Natural Resource Conservation Service office, which is over kind of in the shared building with the CUSD rate. So for a number of years, kind of Mitchell Soil and Water Conservation District and the Conservation Board have been doing water sampling throughout Mitchell County. And that's something that's been going on since 2006. And then we've ramped up a lot since then. So currently, we have been, last year we sampled 23 sites throughout the county. And if you wanna, you can flip over the single sheet and you can see where those sites are located. So we have sampling on every single main stream in Mitchell County, and then also on additional tributaries as well. So on those sites, just local staff, which is me in this case, collects
collect sample and then some just data that we can do on site, pH, turbidity, dissolved oxygen in the water, and then we take samples and then we send them on to the state hygienic lab where they test for E. coli, phosphorus, and nitrates. So I guess we're looking to continue testing the same sites that we have done for this past year, those 23 sites. We feel that it's important to continue to collect that baseline data for where we are at in Mitchell County for water quality and our moving trend lines, so that we can pick up on any problems or rising concerns or where stuff is working or not. I've attached, so Milt Owen wrote up a little report, which I've passed along to you all, which he does his little summary of some of the water sampling results that we got in this past year of sampling. So it is focusing on, he just did the highlight on the Rock Creek watershed, which also, if you see it on the map, you can see I have it outlined where those sites are in blue. So that is the site that they're marrying on. There's comparable results in the rest of the county. So I'll briefly summarize what we're seeing trending that way with those sites, so you can look into that in a little bit more detail. I will say in the outlines of that in that report, it's not an entirely scientific analysis of the stuff. Not all the trends are statistically significant and stuff, but it is giving a pretty good idea of how we're trending, and we do our best to make sure that all sampling is sound and that we're not contaminating anything. So we can see in the Rock Creek watershed, at all, we're sampling 5 different sites, and all of those sites, I believe, are trending downwards in nitrates. So that is something that's pretty good to see, and is encouraging that way. And those sites have been sampled between 8 and 15 years. So we've got a pretty good idea of how those moving, and they're going downwards despite increase in precipitation, which is important to think about, because a lot of times with greater precipitation events, that's where nitrate pollution is going to happen. That's where those nutrients are going to leave the fields. So encouraging that way. As far as phosphorus, more of a mixed thing. We're generally seeing a general increase. Not dramatic, but it's slow and it's steady in phosphorus in our water. Phosphorus is getting into the water bodies, is generally attached to sediment. So any stream bank erosion and stuff that way, and it's also associated with some of our, manure and some of our fertilizers. So that's combination of stuff can be leading to an increase in that. And then we're also E. coli. So that is bacteria it's found in the intestines of animals and humans and stuff. So it's associated with a lot of times with generally feces and stuff like that in different. So if you're having cows on site. And we have been seeing consistent increasing in E. coli levels. The Rock Creek watershed is actually considered impaired based off of E. coli levels that it has by the DNR. And those are gives you an idea of some larger trends that we're seeing in Mitchell County. But we're seeing that we have practices are going to be implemented by farmers and landowners that really do make a difference. And I think those are responsible for some of our lowering nitrate levels in our water despite greater precipitation and stuff. So we're here looking to ask for funding to continuing that water sampling for this next year. We're looking at those same 23 sites through the county. I've included the cost estimates on that initial page. We're asking for the same amount as last year, as the hygienic lab costs are the same. We're providing staff and transportation to cover all that and any remaining expenses. some, also with our E. coli levels, they are very huge. They have, there's like, some of that data skewed by like huge spikes. Say if like an animal had just died upstream or something like that. But as far as E. coli levels, there are some troubling spots where it is considered impaired. But that's not always consistent, so.
Don't drink the water again.
Yeah, I mean, it's.
Any other questions? Mark?
Do the results of your survey impact and manure management plans that we have in place in this county? Do you see any issues there as how the manure is managed, if it's being applied at the proper rates and so forth? Is it finding its way into the streams? That's my question.
Yes, so that's something that we consider, like where we are looking at, because obviously it's not always easy to isolate the causes of rises and stuff, but that is something that we consider as far as targeting certain areas if we're seeing particular problems or addressing stuff that way. Also, we have like brought in, a lot of times state funding has come in that is directed at a certain watershed, and so that's extra cost sharing money for farmers and stuff in that area, and so to kind of concentrate those efforts and practices on a more particular scale so we can actually start to see differences.
So your surveys would be beneficial to boards like this, planning and manure management?
Yes, I think having that water quality data is like crucial to being understanding where we are and where our problems are and what we need to do, because obviously water quality is critical.
Your findings also are researched through the DNR.
DNR has stepped back from the project because of their, I think, restructuring, so they were doing a lot of the funding from the project and some analysis from 2006 to 2015. I think it was before my time here, but they had a big restructuring, and so they stepped back. So we still talk to them some, but they're not as intimately involved with that. And we are working to connect with stuff. We've been, for the past couple of years, we've been collecting all the data and storing it and doing local analysis. We're also wanting to put it on a platform where it's more easily accessible to people from all over the place, and so that it's just open to the public and not sitting on dusty shelves as much.
How many times a year do you test?
So we test for 7 months out of the year, so monthly, so there'll be 7 rounds of testing, so it takes a couple of days or good chunks of a couple of days to get through all the sites.
Usually during dry weather, the numbers go up?
Numbers go down typically in dry weather. Generally, if there's a lot more rainfall in the area and stuff, that's going to be pulled stuff down from the field, whether erosive stuff or manure or nutrients and stuff. So we'll see some of those. Most of the erosion and nutrient pollution occurs during those really high precipitation events.
Well, thank you for your presentation.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys' time.
Thank you. See what we can do for you.
All right, thanks.
Thank you. All right. You guys, Scott Stevens.
That's me.
So, sorry to hold you up. It's been kind of a busy morning.
Don't be sorry. After 2.5 hours, an extra 10 minutes isn't really going to change much, right?
Yeah. The 2.5 hours though driving down the interstate is awfully early for you.
All right. I got young kids, so don't sleep in. So I'm Scott Stevenson with the Davidson Company. This is Nathan Summers, my colleague. We brought a presentation kind of handout. We're here today to just talk about who we are and what we do. Like you generally know, we do finance work for municipal governments really across the country. But Nathan and I, living here in Iowa, really focus most of our energy on Iowa issuers, so cities, counties, school districts, hospitals, community colleges, private colleges, anybody that's kind of a governmental type entity that needs to borrow money, we typically are able to assist with structuring the debt offering, and generally speaking, general overview of what we do in a very broad and general sense. And we brought some material we're happy to go through and talk about, but before we get started into that, I thought I'd just touch base with you guys and see if you had specific items you wanted us to focus on, or questions we can answer if you'd like us to just kind of go through a little bit of the material and see what sort of questions come out of that. Up to you guys how you want us to handle that. I know we've got some new board members, and maybe there's some background that we're
Go through this generally.
okay.
And we'll work through this in the future on things down the road here.
Okay.
But,
Yeah, we've got some stuff that's general to the company and what we do, and then some stuff that's maybe specific to Mitchell County as well that we'll talk about. And if you guys have questions, just please stop us, and we'll be happy to do a little deeper dive.
Definitely, if there's a question, it'll be asked.
Good. All right.
Okay.
Thanks. All right, Nate, you want to get?
Yeah, Nate Summers with Paydates, and I'll start on page 4 of the big packet, but it's kind of grainy and hard to read, so I also printed off a separate page in your packet. It's three pages here. It says general obligation debt, and a green bar across the top, just like this. We'll go through this here real quick first. So basically what you're looking at here on the top page, and what's shown in the bigger packet, shows all the principal payments of all the outstanding debt of Mitchell County, to the best of our knowledge from what we could gather from publicly available sources. Looking at some of the county's previous debt offerings and audits, we kind of pulled everything into one place. So this is kind of a handy snapshot to look at all the outstanding debt the county has. When is the county able to pay off that debt in advance, or make early payments on it, or refinance it if possible? What's the status of the debt? Is it outstanding, or has it been refinanced already? And what was the original principal amount of that debt? So as you look down the fiscal years, each one of those lines represents a fiscal year. Each one of those payments shows the principal amount in that fiscal year. So if you follow all the way across to the right-hand side, right of that yellow bar, you'll see the total outstanding debt for the county at about $34 million. You can see the debt capacity utilized as of fiscal 2020 would be 53%, and the remaining debt capacity that is available for the county to use is at about $30 million. So you use about half of your debt capacity, and as you can see, this is the debt that the county has outstanding. So what's handy about having all this in one place, it's quick and easy to identify where are maybe some opportunities to realize savings and refinancing debt. So if you flip the page, page 2 shows the principal and interest payments. And all the way over on the right-hand side, you can see the debt service levy, assuming you're not making any payments on the debt from any other legal sources and you're actually using the full debt service levy. That's something that we can refine if there are other sources that the county's using to pay off some of this debt. But page 3 then shows all the outstanding interest rates on the debt. And so it's easy to kind of take a look at that and identify, maybe here are some opportunities for potential refinancing.
Which is something we're going to talk about as well. So, and this is just a reference point for you guys. It's a little bit general in nature. We know you utilize TIF to repay some of your existing debt. We don't have all the details of that. So, this would need a little refinement as we get to know you a little bit more if you wanted to work with us. And, we match it up more perfectly with, I think, what your current state of affairs are, and then it'll be a more useful tracking guide going forward if you find some value in it.
So this can be helpful during budget time each year to help establish plan around what your debt service levy is going to be, how you're going to use TIF each year. And it can also be helpful for as you have new projects that come up that you need to use financing to achieve, we can kind of help use this model to build in the additional debt in a way that we can kind of be cognizant of and manage your debt service levy and TIF into the future as well.
So really just take it as a sampling of some modeling material that we generally provide for clients.
All right. So this will be page 5 of the bigger packet. Looks like this. Across the top it says bond refunding opportunity, summary of the funding results. So what we did was we took this model and we used that to just kind of identify, here are some opportunities for potential refinancing for the county. And we noticed the 2014A and the 2015Bs were potential spots of opportunity. All the way down to the bottom, you can see net PV savings, so that's looking at actual dollar savings, and that's discounted based on the value of future money.
What page are you on then?
This is page 5.
Page 5
of the big packet, yeah. Yep.
Okay, so I'm in the right spot.
Yeah, so right down the middle of the page, there's a column that says taxable general obligation refunding bond series 2021A. You follow that all the way down to the row that says net PV savings, 2 from the bottom. So we're looking at about $424,000 of refinancing savings on that one. And on the 2015B bonds, that would be the next column to the right, looking at about $30,000 of refinancing savings for a total of about $454,000. And that's what we've identified as a potential opportunity for the county. There's another packet, looks like this, that's in your folders that outlines a lot more detail of the refinancing transaction. We can go through that in detail, or we can skip that and you guys can review that on your own. That's up to you. We can get off into the weeds. But kind of the bottom line is we're looking at about $450,000 of savings at this point.
So just bringing that to your attention is, hey, here's one idea for you. You may have already thought about this, rates have been low for long enough that everyone kind of knows rates are low. Just trying to give you an idea of what's maybe an opportunity that you're going to take action on to take advantage of currently low interest rates.
So the current rate is 1.55.
So current rate would be 3.3% on the 2014 bonds and 2% on the 2015 bonds. You see that right here in kind of the third segment of numbers. The average coupon of refunded bonds, 3.30% and then 2%. Obviously, the higher interest rates mean you're going to get more savings by refinancing that debt, so it's obviously the more advantageous target to look at. The 2015 bonds save some money, and it's kind of one of those I wouldn't recommend necessarily doing it on its own, but if you're already going through the process of doing refunding and getting a credit rating and all the procedural steps necessary to do that, you could throw in the 2015 bonds and get an extra $30,000 sort of free money along the way.
Is there any penalties by doing the financing or anything with this?
So the
Not penalties, well, be saving money.
Yeah, but
it costs money, so these savings are like net of cost, but no, there's no penalty to do it.
Yeah, I understand, like people have a bond, it's called early, well, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I don't know how that.
so not really like that. I mean, the bonds are callable in one of these cases for another year, so you actually, to lock in today, what you have to do is put that money into an escrow account, and then it will pay off the prior bonds when they become callable. So it's not really a penalty, but you incur some additional interest costs by having to set up that escrow account and let the money sit there for a period of time. So, not a penalty, but it's also not perfect refunding in the sense of a perfect refunding, but it's...
You got all that figured in.
Correct.
Yeah, so if you look at that first column, there's a line about a third of the way down that says value of negative arbitrage. That's about $87,000. That number basically represents the inefficiency of refinancing the debt ahead of the call date. So if you waited until June 1 of 2022, if interest rates stay where they are, theoretically you could experience some more savings to the tune of about $87,000.
But who's to guess that it's gonna stay the same?
Bingo. There's a lot of risk there that interest rates, who knows where interest rates are going to be in a year and a half. So that's kind of the risk proposition. We would say, do you put at risk $450,000 of savings for the potential benefit of gaining another $87,000 at some point in the future that you don't have any assurance is going to be there? That's the risk proposition. Based on the numbers, we would say it's likely wise to consider doing the refunding now. Yeah. question.
Getting pretty quiet.
That's all right.
You guys may already be aware of all this stuff, so we don't know whether you're.
Well, honestly, you know, there's a lot of numbers and a lot of stuff that,
Yeah.
I'm not exactly familiar with, so it's a learning process.
Sure, yes, sure. And if you want to walk through the numbers in more detail, happy to do that. I mean, we could spend 2 hours on this or 5 minutes.
No, I mean, no, not.
I think you wanted bond math class probably today, but,
I think that the high level summary is you're basically swapping out on the 2014 bonds. You're basically swapping out at 3.3% for about a 1.6%, and on the other bonds you're swapping out at 2% in favor of a 1% bond. And like I said, the value proposition is you could wait until 2022 when the other bond is actually currently callable, but you kind of put that at risk if the market moves and interest rates go up. So.
Okay. Well, thank you. This gives us a little something we wanted to call and get your opinion on this, and
sure,
we will work from here.
Sounds good. Yeah, and the geo debt model, that kind of encompasses general obligation debt. We also have TIF modeling that we can do if you have, windmill projects, et cetera, where you've got TIF valuation that's coming on and you want to consider how to use that TIF valuation for future projects or not use the TIF valuation. And, what's the trade-off in using TIF based on what the county collects in actual general fund revenues. We can help the board understand that balance too, because there's kind of a give and take with TIF and how it can affect the other income revenues of the county for operations.
We have a current financial advisor, and I guess the thing would be, how are you guys gonna save the taxpayers of Mitchell County monies compared to what we currently have? I mean, so do you have a pricing structure as far as what you would do for us? I mean, I guess that would be the thing. Why would we want to use you as compared to what we already have? So that's
right to it, sure.
Yeah. I mean, that's a big question. So.
Sure, that's fair.
Yeah.
So obviously we don't know all the details about what your current arrangements are with whoever you're working with at the current time. Some of it we're aware of just based on what's out there publicly, and most of it we're probably not. So you mentioned financial advisor. We are capable of performing 2 different roles for the county, one being an advisory capacity and one being an underwriter. So those are 2 different things that are in some ways similar. I think historically the county has worked with someone in an underwriting capacity, meaning they'll provide some advice to you along the way, but ultimately what they do is they loan you money, right? So they're underwriting the bonds and reselling them to investors. We can do the same thing. So in that capacity, we provide advice along the way. All this stuff you're getting from us is sort of like a value-added service, but the meat and potatoes of what we're doing is underwriting bonds and redistributing them to investors. We think we're really good at that. We can provide a fee quote. I think in these numbers we had 1%. Yeah, just under 1% or 1% of the par amount being issued. So if you're asking for a cost, that's a cost. As an advisor, you're restricted from underwriting a bond, so kind of puts you at a little different relationship status with the county. There, you're just providing advice. You can provide numbers, give you ideas, give you recommendations, but who you borrow money from is an entirely separate transactional relationship. That's an okay thing too. It's not something the county's done historically. If that's something you want to consider, we do work in that capacity with some other counties. That really is just adding a layer of fee into your cost matrix. So to say that it's necessarily going to save you money, it's hard for me to necessarily give you that impression today. That's really more about building a comfort level. So if you feel like we have an incentive to recommend you to borrow money that maybe you didn't need to for any number of reasons, maybe you'd want to change the role or capacity that you're working in to more of an advisory relationship where that incentive is removed. Does that make sense? So in that context, we typically charge, for this refinancing, for example, it's about $9 million, something like 20 grand is going to be the cost. Now, oftentimes when there's an advisor, you're doing a lot of the work that the underwriter would otherwise do, so your underwriting cost goes down. And when you look at the underwriting cost in conjunction with that advisory fee, maybe your total cost works out to about the same as what you would experience otherwise. But I can't assure you of that, right? Because they're two separate things, and I don't necessarily have control over the other side of the equation. So that's just to give you cost, you know, real direct, blunt numbers. That's effectively what we would experience. Does that make sense?
So the difference in the roles, I think, just to summarize, when you hire an underwriter, you're basically working with a banker, where the county's, the onus is kind of on the county to do what's right for the county. When you work with a financial advisor or municipal advisor, that advisor has a fiduciary duty to the county where they have to act in the best interest of the county. And either way, the underwriter has an obligation to deal fairly, so that's also there, but the onus is stronger with a financial advisor. I believe the county's been working with an underwriter in the past, so that's more like working with a bank, where you kind of have a trust relationship, and you kind of trust that they're doing right by you. But so the standard is a little bit different for the two roles, and the two roles can work together. The same firm can't do the same two roles. You can have an underwriter and a financial advisor working together on a transaction as well. So if that's a pathway forward, that's something we'd be happy to entertain as well.
Does that make sense?
I think so.
There's one, right?
All righty. Well, thank you for your time,
You got it.
Absolutely.
and we will see what the future brings.
Okay.
We've got to do some digging ourselves here.
Okay.
So, thank you for coming up here.
Of course. If you guys have questions in the future, feel free to let us know.
Yeah. Our contact information for each of us is on the front of the presentation. I stuck my card in there for you.
I got your cards.
Yep. Feel free to give us a call.
Very good.
Thank you all for your service. Wish you all the best and playing catch up and getting everybody up to speed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
Have a safe trip back.
Will do.
Thank you.
Okay, Mark, are you on the air? I think he was supposed to be on at 10 o'clock.
Yep, I'm here.
There he is. So, I'll let you have the floor.
I've provided my proposed budget to you for 2021, 2022. The one thing I want everybody to be aware of, I know sometimes departments say, oh, we're getting to the end of the year, we better use all of our money, or they'll think, they'll cut our budget for next year. We don't approach it that way. We use what we need to use. We don't use, spend money that we don't need to spend. If anybody has any questions on anything, ask me a question. Other than that, it's pretty, I think the copies you guys have are black and white, so mine is blue and white because I use blue ink, but, it's pretty black and white. What's there is there, and if you've got any questions on anything, just ask me.
Looks like you're at 35% this year so far, huh? So chances are you'll have some left, right?
For total budget,
Yeah.
let me look.
You're at 35%, unless you have, something coming up.
Yeah, we're at 35%, and the year's about halfway done, so we're substantially under budget right now. But the second sheet, that expenditure where it's just 2,000, 2,000, 2,000, 2,000, what that is, that's drug forfeiture money from a case we had, oh gosh, it's probably been 25 years ago now. We just haven't spent very much of that money. I think we bought some computer equipment, but that's about it.
Any other questions for Mark?
And if after you look at it and you've got a question, don't be afraid to call me up and say, Mark, what's this or what's that? For instance, that last line, $3,182, that criminal prosecution, that fund started out probably 10 years ago, and what it arose out of was the steel wheel situation. And the then Board of Supervisors said, well, we want somebody out there to, at certain times of the day, and I think Kurt was probably still the sheriff then, it might have been Greg, I just don't remember. And Kurt or Greg said, well, we just don't have it in our budget to do that, so they said, Mark, why don't you put a line in your budget for that, that way you can hire some officers in their off time to go out there and monitor that road. We've just always left that in our budget in case something's come up like that, but I don't think we've used any of that money in at least 10 years, but we've got it in there just in case we ever need to do something like that, but we would only use that if the Board of Supervisors says, Mark, we need your office to do an investigation because the Sheriff's Department doesn't have the resources. But other than that, we've never used it for anything.
All right.
Okay, call me if you have any questions.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No, I'm going to stay on and listen, but like I said, anytime I click my microphone, it takes about 4 or 5 seconds before it'll activate, so that's why there's such a long pause.
Okay. Looks like next would be to approve the 2020 Mitchell County Employee Gross Payroll Report, which would be that one. Anyways, this isn't a resolution, this is just basically where we have to say we've seen it, correct?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay.
I believe it gets published in the paper as well.
But we don't need a resolution.
I don't believe so. If Rachel's still on, she might be able to answer that, but.
She might not be still on. We don't need to have a resolution for approval of the employee gross wage.
No, you just have a simple motion, second, and just to approve it each year. This time of year you do that and it's published.
Okay. So, at that said, everybody had a chance to snoop through that. Make a motion for approval.
So moved.
Jim has made a motion to approve.
I will second that.
Mike has made a second. All those in favor of approving the Mitchell County 2020 Mitchell County Employee Gross Payroll Report, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So we have approved that. Approve the matrix resolution. Do I have to read it all? No, thank you. It's here before us. I'll give you a few seconds to read it if you haven't read through it. has made a motion to approve. Mark has made a motion to approve. All those, any discussion, any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any nays? Hearing none. The ayes have it. The matrix resolution has been approved. Going down, discuss and approve the board appointment for North Iowa Vocational Center, NIVIC. So, it was part of NIVIC and it was dissolved. They're gonna put another board member on that again.
I am not sure. That would be a question for Rachel.
Rachel, are you there?
I don't see anything about that.
Yeah, that, here a year ago, when the two entities combined, they didn't need all the board members. And so half of them were let go. And now they're gonna start a new, we're gonna have a new board member. I guess. And that would be one of us. So, any discussion? I guess I didn't know that they were starting a new.
No, I don't know either, so.
Wish Rachel was on there.
Yeah, she didn't fill me on that.
Yeah, I didn't know any, didn't know they.
Yeah, something at the table and then, get some
Yes,
information.
why don't we, so we get a little more information on that. Discuss and approve creating the position of an Economic Development Director to work with the Economic Development Commission. Okay, this would be a position that basically Tony has right now, other than the difference is that Tony works for Economic Development of Mitchell County, and if we go this route, he would work for Mitchell County and work with the board, or under the board, and he would work with Economic Development. And he would also be able to help Mitchell County with any future economic development. You know, as being a county employee, he would be able to assist Mitchell County in any needs in future economic development. And Tony, you're here, so
sure.
I'll let you take the floor and go from there.
Well, everybody gets to run around then, I guess. Huh?
You better have good answers.
This was kind of dropped on me in the last minute as well, so I will do my best to think of all of the different scenarios that are good and bad with this setup. It came up, I was having discussions with Steve talking about an issue, and he commented that, well, the county is your employer. And I said, well, no, I'm not. I work for the Economic Development Commission. You as a board give a lump sum of money to the EDC to take care of part of the funding issues that go with it, and that just happens to be basically what my pay and all the HR costs that go with it. If you are going to maintain doing everything that was done prior to the housing incentive program, I would say that the current setup works well. Because it does allow for collaboration and cooperation between all of the cities, EDCs, the utilities, and that works out very well. And it gives the opportunity for as much anonymity to industry coming in as possible. And a lot of industries like that. They like the ability to be anonymous until as long as they can. So there's some advantages to doing that. However, if, and I do recommend the strong consideration of this going forward, the county wants to continue to be aggressive and working with industry to offer incentives, to have plans to do construction activity like we've done with our past program. I think therein is where the problem came from, was the lack of opportunity for monitoring by the supervisors. I know in one of the complaints that we had on the incentive program was the perceived lack of fairness, and that the money was not going where people thought it should go.
I got it.
Is there an issue?
Nope, someone forgot to mute themselves, sorry.
Oh, okay, all right. If the county wants to continue to do those types of programs, in our current political environment at the national and state level, I think the public is demanding more transparency, more input, and a better ability to be able to work with programs to make sure that they're fair. The way that the program was set up this last time, it was 100% transparent. The MCEDC did everything it could to maintain transparency, had public meetings and everything, invited people to come to meetings to help express how to make it work. So everything was done that they could to have transparency and to have fairness. However, in the public eye, everyone knows there's always a disconnect from the public in what we do. The supervisors are the visual focus of political complaint and of political input. So if this board were the one that put together the policy, monitored the policy, and altered it as needed from a perceived change, this body is the natural way to do that. The development of the last program was very long, a lot of time was spent on putting the program together. And so it's only natural that as you're in the midst of it, the bodies that put that together are going to be very resistant to change, simply because that's a lot of work. Let's just let it go. Let's make sure it's working, and this is the way we designed it. We want it to work. And there was, nothing bad about that. But by not having political input and the ability for the supervisors to be able to alter the plan, it created hard feelings. It created some stress. And I do feel that if this board had more control of the actual design of the plan, you would still want to be as responsive to those boards, your EDCs in St. Ansgar, in Osage, the utilities. You all want to have that input, because it's wise to have a multitude of counselors in putting these things together. But when it comes time to actually administer it and have the ability to monitor and tweak and make changes, this body is a much more efficient way to do that. So if you want to continue to do economic development in the ways that we've done it with the incentive programs and that type of thing, this body needs to have that direct control over that, and this would be one way of doing that. Again, if you don't want to do those types of things, it's not necessary. But I would say going forward in our current climate, I would say you want to have all the tools you have at your disposal to increase as much economic development as possible. And I think we're in a good place to go forward with that. But I do believe if you're going to be administering a large incentive program like that, the control for that needs to be with this board. So you can have the absolute transparency and the control that is politically available to the public to have input. And this board is the natural conduit for that. So that is the biggest advantage to moving this position in-house in the county level. I would hope that all the other entities would still see the value in what we're doing and see the value in all of the marketing and the recruitment and all of those types of things that we do via the internet, via social media, and all of the aspects that go with that, monitoring industry, being a conduit for industry coming in. Even through all the pandemic, we have continued to get a constant trickle of inquiry into our certified site. there's still a fair amount of industry looking for opportunities. So that continues to come in, and we would continue to do that. We continue to work through that. And I would also say that maybe that might even be an avenue where we go forward, we need to do more of, because again, having that certified site there does a lot of the legwork for industry to say, yes, this is what we want, and so they know ahead of time whether it's going to be a good fit or not. So a lot of the anonymity that goes in, they don't need it, because they can investigate everything prior to making an offer on a piece of property, because we've already done that legwork for them. And so that, I'd say, is arguably a good investment that the county can do. More of that type of investment in helping industry by getting the legwork done ahead of time, so they feel more comfortable approaching us, because they already know there's a good fit. It's what they want. It has the tools and the resources available. So if we go that route, a lot more of our work is done that way. Again, I don't foresee our department changing with this structure, other than the fact when it comes to monitoring a government's incentive program, the control of it and the monitoring of it is with a government body rather than an appointed board. And I think the public would perceive that well. So, with that, do you have any questions?
The current incentive programs that they're developed are somewhat low on money, so nothing's really gonna happen unless, and we're the ones that are controlling the money.
Right.
So, to elaborate on your point that there would be better control if we were to take over some of the aspects of economic development.
Mm-hmm.
We actually do control a lot of economic development because we have the money that is awarded or not awarded.
You have the final say over the approval of a project, but herein is kind of the problem we deal with even on the federal level. When you're dealing with a program of this nature, the policy is put together, all the criteria for the program is put together. And in the discussions, even when there's a project that may not be the most popular, but because it meets the guidelines that are put forth, you really are kind of tied to have to approve it. And when you have limited input on those criteria, you are very limited on what you can do with it. And that's where I say you would be able to be more responsive when you see a weakness or an area that, no, that's not really what we intended. We need to be able to pull that back, tighten that restriction up. As a body, you would have the ability to do that at a much quicker scenario than my board would, because you have that ability then to say, okay, going forward, we're going to approve this one, but it's not really what we wanted, but understanding it met criteria, it followed the rules, everything, we're going to improve it because of that. But going forward, X is not going to happen, we're going to have this requirement placed on it, we're going to do these other things. It allows you to be more responsive to, as you're looking through a program, because any incentive program or government program that's out there, you're always going to have unintended consequences, you're going to encounter something you had anticipated. This body can be more responsive to those things as they come up.
Why can't we tell economic development that we want those changes made?
You can, and what happened, the way it was in the last scenario, there was some concerns with it. It was brought up, but again, because of the bureaucratic momentum of a large board, it's difficult to make happen, because there was so much invested in the program by that large body. I mean, because it's representing 9 different entities as a total, and they all had their input. It's the resistance to change of any program is very high when you have that many people involved. It's just the nature of the beast, and that's what we see at the federal level. Anytime you've got something come up, it's like it does not want to change when you have a large body like that. It's just the nature of it.
Well, excuse me, I'm sorry. I like the and I can't say that word. As far as when industry comes in here,
sure.
I cannot say that word.
Anonymity.
Okay. I like that aspect that we have right now, and there's a number of groups that contribute to economic development.
Right.
Mitchell County's one, banks, the cities, Heartland Power, Alliant Energy. So there's a number of them that are making that
right.
Department function.
Right.
And I've had had calls from some of those groups that state that they have some very big concerns if we were to do this, as in regards to the funding, future funding that they would contribute to it.
Right.
Personally, I think things would fade away if we were to do this. That's just my personal opinion, and I'm not real comfortable at doing this. I like the system that we have now. I know the parameters of some of these programs that have been developed. I definitely want to have some changes made to it because some of it is not going the way we want it to go.
Right.
I don't know how this can be done legally. I don't know the legal aspect of it, but I still feel we have the money, and if we're not dishing out the money, somebody's gonna have to change it.
Right.
I don't know the legal aspect of that, but
Well, let me just address exactly what you just said. The concern you're having and the fact that, you know, you put in the largest amount of money.
The county did.
The county did.
correct.
And if these other entities are having that same thought, therein lies the problem. You, as the biggest input, have had very limited input into how things have gone. And all the other entities, if you know, they're not hiring me, they're feeling a loss of control. They're feeling a loss of input. You're in that boat right now. That's where the problem comes, is who has the input? Who has the control? And I guess my hope is, you know, I'm sitting here on both ends getting it from both sides. But the thing is, if we can make, if the county does, and we're not even talking a monetary difference here, the amount that it would take for you to change is the same dollar amount of what you're currently spending. So it's not a monetary, money-saving issue on either way. But it is about control. And again, if we were just doing the outreach and we're doing the recruitment and we're doing the facilitation with industry, if that's all we're doing, the current arrangement works very well with that. But going forward, I think we have shown that by being aggressive with our incentives, that we can do better things than with that. And to do that, I think more government oversight on those programs would definitely help. Again, if we were just doing the recruitment and the facilitation and being that contact for industry and working with workforce development and those types of things, the current arrangement works well. And I would say doing all of those things going forward still brings value to all those utilities and banks going forward. We would still be doing all those same things within our department and doing all of that, even to a better degree now with Tracy coming on board, who is very experienced with online marketing, with social media outreach, all of those types of things that we can do to help in recruitment of employees, and also for putting out a good front for industry, that they see us and all those kinds of things that go with that. We can still do that with the funds that everybody else supplies for all these other activities. This board would control this position, and I'm not necessarily saying it's 100% me. If this board controls this position, they then have the ability to work and be as aggressive or non-aggressive as they wish to be with incentives for industry and working with other goals that you have, like we had with the construction incentive. I think the program that we've just gone that, you know, has probably caused a lot of this infighting right now has been very successful. A number of homes, a number of businesses, a number of industries were brought in because of it. You know, I think there are lessons to be learned from the program. There are ways that we can work with it to do a better job going forward. And that really is a credit to the people that put it together initially, is that it worked well and it reached the goals that it was trying to attain. So I think that that bodes well going forward, that we've done some good things, and there are other ways that we can tweak and improve going forward to do even better. But again, if you're wanting to be aggressive as a government entity, having that transparency and that accountability to the public is a positive thing in my view. So if the rest of the entities want to see continued aggressive use of incentives, it's also in their interest to work with the MCEDC in maintaining that working relationship on all the other aspects of it. So it needs to be somewhat of a hybrid, in my
I just
opinion.
have one more comment. I found it odd that, because we have the biggest purse involved with this, that we brought this up, somebody brought this up, and I got calls from these other entities asking me what's going on. I thought it would be, they should have been contacted as far as what we're thinking about doing here also. Just because we have the biggest purse does not mean we can just mow our way through things, so they should have been contacted. That's my thought. I'm done.
I'd like to piggyback on that. I got calls also, both pros and cons. But during my campaigning, and a lot of the questions I was asked was basically on this subject we're talking about, okay? And I personally, I don't care what the rest of you guys, this is my personal feeling. I'm 8 days into this job. And I don't feel I want to come in here on 8 days and think I'm an expert on what's going on and make a, I believe this is a huge change. I believe we need to really look at it hard. We need to all sit down together. We need to figure out what we want to do for the incentives and how we want to do it. But I'm not going to sit here and say 8 days into my job, I know that this change needs to be made. I mean, I've talked with you, Tony. I understand the pros and cons. I've tried to go through some 28E agreements, but there's a lot in 8 days that I can't. If we make a change, I get phone calls. I don't know if I can tell them exactly what was for the better, for the worse, for why we did this. Now, that's just my personal feeling. I'd like to really look more into it as a group to make a group decision. And that's just my personal feelings, you know, this has been a tough weekend because of, and then when the agenda came out, it was like, good Lord, I spent part of the evening at my office at home on phone calls, like, what's going on? What's this all about? So, that's my input.
Keith? Your item on here says discuss and approve. That's probably why you've gotten a lot of phone calls, number one. I've heard the current EDC referred to as a beast that we have to handle, and infighting. I don't know of any infighting that this EDC has produced. The beauty of having the EDC the way it is now, we're out in our own communities and we see needs, we also see opportunities. We can invite that progressive movement, and the county board funding it is a great thing to do. But this board is not going to drive the EDC at any point in time. No governmental body is going to drive economic development. Need and possibilities is what drive development. And to put the director under the county board as an employee, that does give you a lot of control, but it disenfranchises a lot of other people that are interested in seeing this county grow and progress. And the director should be the biggest cheerleader to drive that kind of thing. They should be pushing all the boards, cities and counties, to achieve these goals, to move ahead in the county and become a viable county that addresses all the issues of labor and need. Those are the kinds of things governmental boards do, not drive economic development. I just hope that you do table this and allow some of the other people to become present in an open meeting. This is the first open meeting discussion, I'm assuming. Correct? think resistance to how things have gone in the past are an issue here. I believe that this board, if they're going to extend funding for economic development, they need to make a good plan. If you feel what you've done in the past is unfair, then you need to change that. I don't have a thing against that at all. But do not use it to be controller over what is developed in Mitchell County. Not any one of us can say what's right for any community. Communities have to have that voice. And I hope that you do consider tabling this issue and get some more information out there for us, because this was a kind of a surprise thing on an agenda for me.
Everything, Keith?
Pardon me? That's not everything. I'll continue to talk.
All right, if you want to, go ahead.
I'm done.
Okay, here's my opinion. The idea of having Tony work under the leadership of the Board of Supervisors gives us the ability to make changes, which the Economic Development Board did not make changes for 3 years. We've done the way they have everything written. It allowed certain people to get certain things where the majority of the public didn't think was fair.
What are these things that certain people were getting that was not available to
We're
all
not
the
going to
public?
get to that right now, but there are, monies was divvied out to people that surely in the minds of the public didn't deserve. Now, the Economic Development Board is a different herd of people. I mean, they have different ideas, but the majority of the public that was ringing my phones off the hook think differently. Okay, your phones were ringing. Mine's been ringing too, but the opposite way. We need to be able to control, if we do, put money up available for housing, to set limits, requirements, values, high value, low value, and it was in the idea of for housing, low-income housing or affordable housing, but yet it wasn't fitting the bracket for the lower end of the people. So we needed to have control. And this way, if we vote today and we get that control, we are able to structure it better than what it was.
So the county is now going to fund all of Tony's operation?
We do now.
No.
And the communities do not contribute to the county EDC?
The communities do, but the
Okay, so
county provides.
You're not funding all of it?
But we're providing an amount that pays for his wages.
So in the future then do...
Kevin?
You're contributing a portion. Granted, it's the majority, but for Tony's wages.
Do other counties in Iowa have an economic development director working under them? Or do they all do it?
There's all kinds of models.
There's all kinds of ways, right?
Let me give you, I was on the board from day one. I helped set it up. So I'm the oldest guy on the board. And Mitchell County missed an opportunity because we didn't have any entity set up that the developer could work with. So we came into fruition. And the state is also dictating a central location. They don't want to deal with individual cities unless you're a huge city. Again, that's another reason we came into being. And I understand the housing situation. I've had questions about it too. But because of the funding source, we were led to believe through attorneys that it only had to be set up, it only could be set up this way and this now. And I guess if, if you choose not to fund the housing portion anymore, that's your decision, because that money is coming from the county. But I'd like to see the body stay separate, so everybody can have input into it. I'm actually the City of Osage's representative. And of course, each EDC has their own member on the board too, so.
And there still would be a board, correct?
Yeah, nothing would change. Other than Tony would work with the EDC.
So,
I necessarily agree with that.
Well, there's a lot of public input that there was problems with it, there's a lot of complaints, I heard a lot of it. So, people wanted to change, why do you think there's 5 here instead of 3? Because people wanted change. So, and that was one of the biggest complaints.
and it was all about housing, the housing
The
program.
construction incentive program, what was one of the deals, yeah, I mean, just the way it flowed,
We must
all money, I mean, it was.
We must also not forget that Tony will help Mitchell County also. He will work for Mitchell County towards, because there is jobs that he can do for Mitchell County that he can help Mitchell County in its future in economic development, rather than working under the EDC.
I just want to make a couple of things that, we took a tack early on of not doing anything with tourism or Main Street, because we thought those were functions of Conservation Board and Chamber of Commerce in the cities for each individual Main Street business. We were more focused on industry, and last 3 years, of course, we got into the housing because it's kind of driven by industry. There was a lack of housing opportunities for people to live in, so businesses, they need employees. You got to have a place for people to live. So,
Tony.
I think this last part of the conversation is probably what's, to me, is the most unfortunate thing, is the program was, in my mind, well conceived. It was a great idea, and I think it achieved a lot of good things. The fact that of it not being able to be responsive is what caused the complaints. The program did good things, and we need to continue to do those same types of things. And so, in desperation here, if that's what it takes to continue to do these types of programs, to have these incentives, if this is what it takes to get it back to where people feel they have the ability to have input and to have a source where they can complain, if that's what it takes to continue to be progressive and moving forward with these types of programs, I don't think it's a bad thing. I will continue to do all the other things that we talked about to promote and work with industry, work with workforce, to do all those things, to reach out and work with conversations of development in each town. Those things won't change. Because my goal, the goal of the EDC, is to promote the growth, the steady, the sustainable growth of the county. And we've achieved that. We have one of the only growing counties, especially rural counties, in the state. So the things that have transpired have been positive and good. I see this as a way to continue that going forward by responding to the public and giving them the input that they should demand from a democracy. To have the ability to reach out to their elected officials and say, I see a problem, you need to look at this, you need to fix it. Having that ability on this type of a program is great. And again, all the other things that go with it will not change. We will continue to do all of the, being that conduit, being the ones that's reaching out to industry, recruiting, sending out emails and talking about different things as they come up, working with site selectors to find out what do we need to do, what do we need to find, What are they looking for? All those types of things we will still be doing. And hopefully still supported by all the other entities, because all of those other things that we're doing reach into what their goals are as well. And that's what it's all about, is the goals of the different entities involved. We still have the same goals. If we want to continue to do these incentive programs, that's where this all comes back to. If you want to have that role for the county to be able to be that big time player, because the amount that the EDC, or the county gives to the EDC on just a line item budget, yes, does cover my salary and the HR costs. But all of the other $1 million+ that you give to the incentive program, therein lies the problem. You need to have the control over that in the public's viewpoint, because like you say, that's where you got your complaints from, is people did not feel like they had any input. They felt frustrated that when they complained about something, nothing changed. Those types of things. And again, these programs are positive. They bring forth good things for the county, and we need to be able to tell that story. But when people aren't been able to have part of the conversation by complaining, there's where the problem comes from. We have tried to share the positive aspects of this at every opportunity we've had, but without that other side of the conversation coming in, they won't listen because they don't feel like they're being listened to. And that's what I want to be able to try to add to this by doing this. Again, this was not my idea. I didn't bring it up. But as it was presented to me and asked me to research it, I can see some benefit to it. And Mayor, you talk about being the cheerleader for doing all these things. Again, my goal is to bring positive growth to the entire community. And I think, and I really do feel like I can do a better job of bringing those same qualities to the rest of the county and still be a county employee. We can still be as aggressive on being a cheerleader and being an advocate and bringing it all to them without it. Because again, the monetary difference is not there. So my approach to things has not changed. It's positive growth for the whole county. That's all.
On that positive growth, I have seen also, was told and read that for our industry coming to town, a lot of times it's a couple of people that come to town and they're not going to come in and sit in our boardroom. They're going to go, that's why I think the EDC is very important. They're going to go to the board or two-member of the EDC and they're going to say, what does your town have to offer us? And they want the no public notice. They're trying to figure out where to move an industry to. So if perhaps we take that, the EDC starts to filter away, some of the money doesn't come in, the industry guys, people, may not come to Mitchell County because they're not going to come in and sit in a boardroom and talk to us about what you have to offer us. They're just looking for a place to move their industry in the early stages. And so I think we need to keep a strong EDC. But
there's nobody here trying to dissolve it.
Correct.
I made the comment, they might not come to our board meetings. Keith?
If they come to your board meeting, what direction do you send that opportunity? Does this board make the choice of which community they're going to direct it to?
We work with Tony.
Those are possibilities.
Mayor, usually when they come to town, they've already got something in mind. They look at us where even now, we don't direct a particular direction. We give all the options. That would not change. We do that today. If there is someone who comes in that does not have an idea, we share with them every possible avenue that may be a good candidate for them. That would not change.
have any more?
No, other than I just, personally, I'm not ready to move on with this, but.
Todd, let me address that concern just a little bit on the anonymity side. That's why I brought up the whole idea of the biggest benefit we had, and really in my mind, that's a great program, is the certified state program, the certified site, because a lot of that is already taken into account. Because a lot of times that the anonymity request, the reason they don't want everyone knowing they're coming is they want to be able to come in and negotiate with a landowner to buy property, and they don't want to come in disadvantaged. They want to come in and be able to buy that at fair market value and not worry about being gouged, and all of a sudden the property that looks really good, all of a sudden they realize they're like Walmart. It's like if Walmart were to come to town, you would never know they're coming to town until all of a sudden that transfer of property takes place. You would never know. And they were going to do that regardless. And industry does the same thing. They look at all of the different variables that's out there. And by us providing that list of this is what we have right now that's at the state, that's why we continue to get people asking. They see the basics of what we have, and site selectors will call me and say, I've got an industry, and they claim to not even know who it is themselves. They have this question here, here, and there. What do you have to offer in these scenarios here? So we get that, and it's anonymous, and has nothing. I can't even bring anything to you other than say, I got a phone call, someone's interested. I know nothing about them. That would not change. It doesn't matter who it is. So they have that ability to maintain their anonymity up until the very time that it's time to start actually buying the property, and they know what they've got, and they also know all of the other parameters go with DNR regulations and all of the historical preservation issues. All of that is done beforehand. So the anonymity is already taken care of prior to. So that really is not an issue.
Okay, any further discussion?
I have a quick question. Regarding, if this would go through regarding his health insurance, how would you plan to handle that? Because I think
As our
currently
county
he gets
insurance is single,
Currently, he gets his family insurance paid.
but that would be something we would discuss after this.
Okay, because I know I've already gotten comments from people that if that would continue,
That would be
a problem for a lot of
That would be a
employees.
discussion after this vote.
I'm just speaking my piece, I think he needs to be, if he's gonna be a county employee, he needs to be treated like the rest of the county employees.
And that's what he's planned on being.
Do you know what percentage of economic developers are county employees in the state of Iowa?
I don't have the exact number, but in talking with the state EDC, they're the ones that gave me the contact.
Okay.
They said it's not the norm, but it's not a rarity either. They never gave me any hard numbers, but in the discussions, I kind of had the feeling that it's probably predominantly a public-private partnership like what we currently have. And then another large portion is a lot of 28E agreements where of the cities and the counties come in, they pool their resources together, but those are all government entities. And again, that could have been an option way back when too. They could have done that, and they would have had the same same arrangement, which you all have plenty of 28E agreements that you're already involved with, so you know how they work. But then the other was a directly funded department through the county. It was a minority, but it's not a rarity. So.
Okay.
Any more comments? If not, is anybody would like to make a motion to create the position of Economic Development Director for Mitchell County to work with the Economic Development Commission? Do I have a motion?
I have one more question.
Okay,
If we don't make a decision today and meet with the economic development Yes.
If you want to, and I'm just making this option, you can always, motion to table and put it off till next week, and then you have a second, and then you have discussion and you vote on that. The only reason I'm responding is I heard somebody ask, well, can we put this off? And it's just, you move to table it until next week or 2 weeks, and then you bring it back up in 2 weeks or a week or whatever you want to do.
Okay, I guess then,
Can I make a motion to table it then for a week, or, I feel we should meet with the board. I don't know how anybody else feels about that.
Yeah, I'm gonna add to that. There is a meeting, economic development meeting next week. I'm in a personal situation that I'm having surgery this Friday and I'm gonna be laid up. Again, I'm not comfortable with making this decision today. With this surgery, I probably wouldn't be on board next Tuesday. I can't promise you the following Tuesday. I have trust in the other 4 members, and if they want to table it for 1 week, I would like to see us table it for a little bit longer, because again, I'm not going to be able to do any legwork, talk to anybody, be at any meetings for several weeks. Now, that's just nothing I can have control over. So, how do you guys feel? Oh, there's a week. I will not be here next week. I can almost guarantee. I probably won't be here.
Is their meeting open to us all or not, or is it a public meeting?
If you all want to attend, we would just have to post it as a supervisor's meeting, a joint meeting.
And I have here on my notes, it's not always, maybe Kelvin could help me out, but it says the last Monday at 5:30. But there's always some phone calls, I think, too, isn't there?
It just kind of depends, like last month we didn't have a meeting. It just kind of depends on Tony's schedule and when we can get enough board members to have a meeting. But typically, we have a set date that it can change.
So nothing's scheduled right now?
But
Looking at the calendar, the 25th is our next slated meeting. And I think part of the problem is just getting budgets accepted, is where you're at. That's the main reason this kind of got dropped and has been pushed so hard, is because of budget.
Right now, I know.
Yeah. I would love to have more input from everybody else, honestly, I really would. So if we can do it within the budget framework and have more input, I'm all for it.
Okay. So the budget framework would probably work, wouldn't it? For what?
You can amend your budget if you have to.
well, I guess it's tabled then.
First week of February?
Well, would you guys be open to having a joint meeting with the EDC on that Monday night, on the 25th?
I would have to look and see what's going on.
I would be.
Okay, and really, my
Yeah, I
board
know
wanted,
what's going on, but I've already made my decision, so I won't be there.
well, my board had already wanted to invite you all to have a joint session to be able to do some planning and brainstorming of what we want to do as a group anyway. So they wanted to reach out to y'all and include you in that process already. So that'll work out great.
If we're gonna be a quorum, somebody's gonna have to post it 24 hours.
Right, that's why I say, if you're gonna do it, we need
Somebody will have to take care
post
of
it.
that.
I mean, we already post our meetings anyway, so I would have to just work with Rachel, and you all
Say,
post
won't
yours
Rachel
at the
have to
same
be
time.
there to
And
take
she would have
notes?
to be there to keep minutes and all of that too, so it would be like basically 2 separate meetings at the same time.
Where do you have your meetings? Here?
Right here.
Okay.
Well, anyways,
What time's it at?
Typically it's 5:30.
Do we have to have a motion to table it? Motion second, vote? I'm not sure.
Mike had a motion.
Okay,
And
all right.
Now, I'm assuming that if you wanted to do anything, I don't know if you have to go back into your regular meeting at some point to make those decisions or not. That would be a Rachel question.
Well, we probably can't make them decisions that night, but.
no, they have to be made during the board meeting.
Yeah, that's why I didn't know if that being a special
More
meeting, if you had that ability or not, if it had to be in a regular scheduled normal meeting.
So the motion was made to table, and Todd's probably a motion seconded to table. So this is tabled.
Can I add, well, no, I didn't make the motion, you made my motion.
But you would make a second, right?
Yeah.
So that'll make that official.
You
All
need
in
to vote
favor,
on it,
say
Mr.
aye.
Chairman.
Pardon?
You have a motion and a second, you need to vote on this.
Yep, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So, anyways, now I have to table this meeting for about 5 minutes. I hope I can get that done. Go in recession for 5 minutes. Thank you.
Yeah.
You watch now, I'll get it. The last time I served, it was postponed, they called me the day before my physical. You watch, they'll call me tomorrow and say, due to COVID, I don't think, COVID kind of seems to be not real noisy right now, I forget.
What's that?
COVID, it hasn't been real noisy lately.
Well, if you don't have it, it's never is noisy. If you have it, it's a problem. So keep up the precautions.
Yeah.
Get it over with. I'm the only one that had a meeting on that.
Yeah, I got one tomorrow.
Anyways, the darn thing.
I haven't heard back from some of the committees, and the one of them, it just sounds like they just send you an email.
Well, I lost it.
Look at the emails, I don't know.
I've got too much junk on my table. How about the IT update while I'm looking?
Yes, I can give that. So again, my classes are online. They begin January 19th. I gave you all a copy of my scheduled hours. I will still be staying in Osage. I can work the IT director position until May 6th is when classes end or until Casey comes back. Last semester I averaged for the 15 weeks of school about 30 hours. I proposed 27 hours as for this semester's classes. It does vary every week depending on how the class goes or the workload year round. So I just wanted to make everyone aware of that schedule, just like last semester. Barb just noted that I made that since I'm a contracted employee. So.
Yep, so noted.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All righty, I did find I had a NICOG meeting last night. And, called to order, had a quorum, approved the minutes, treasurer's report, and then we had elections of officers, and Jim Erb was the chair, Chris Kryman is the vice chair, and Doug Cam is the treasurer, and there was somebody else, they were going a mile a minute. They presented an award to the outgoing chair. They discussed the 2020 annual audit report. Larry Pump, CPA out of Charles City, did it. Everything was okay. Did a communications and reports, and they discussed about the NICOG the year 22 dues and membership. Discussed the CARES Act for transit. With a loss of 70% riders on the bus, the CARES Act provided $1 million, so that covered the losses. Old business, Clear Lake accident. They had an accident last February. Well, that person passed away, I guess, last week. So, and it was our fault. So, ICAP has offered $2 million in the settlement, and there's another additional $6 million through One Vision, but they're waiting for the family to grieve, so more on that in the future. Discussed about the COVID vaccinations, and discussed possibility to share with legislators on ideas relating to the vaccinations and ideas and improving the vaccination process and speed it up. And also to resolve questions for the local public health. So anyway, so that was enough. The meeting was over with, and our next meeting is March 2nd of 2021. So there's my meeting. And moving on, what else? Oh, what is that? IT updates done, public comment. Keith, you still got something to say?
Sure do.
Let her rip.
I read in the paper last week about the sheriff and concerns about employment and handling insurance for employees, so on and so forth. Anyway, every small town has that issue, being able to provide decent insurance for employees and wages. Now, when we can't provide good insurance for them.
Still going right now?
Yep.
I'll make it quick. Possibility of partnering with county and other communities in order to hit the insurance market cost. Is that something that they would be interested in at least discussing going forward?
I think
Go through that ISAC, can you explain our insurance as far as how we go through it, or?
Well, we currently go through ISAC and have a couple
Yeah.
Walmart plans.
we're through ISAC.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, this is
What
probably
is
something
ISAC?
for Rachel to give us info.
Yeah, Rachel,
Iowa State
I don't think she's
Association of
still on,
Counties.
but
Okay, but that doesn't include communities, it's just
We're in the ISAC.
yeah, and I do think our rates do get combined with other counties and such, so then they can pass on better rates to us, is how I understand it.
Well, that's my opinion of what
Yeah.
communities should be doing too, but
Yep.
if communities can't be part of counties, then I guess we have to search elsewhere.
I read it through, just.
We get too much benefit out of being part of that coalition of the Iowa state counties.
You get what?
There's a lot of benefit in it.
We get a big benefit of being part of that Iowa state county,
I understand.
counties.
I'm asking if you know of any possibilities for communities to gain that same advantage for insurances.
It might be worthwhile to contact ISAC and see if they have, there might be something that's involved with communities too. They might have a source.
Sure.
I don't know that, but
Okay,
that
thank you.
might be a starting
Possibly
point.
have an idea.
Answers my question.
Yeah.
All right,
Okay.
any other public comments? If not, we're gonna go right into